So I'm out back at the collection today, getting ready to wash our 69 396 SS El Camino. This is kind of the shop truck here. It's probably the least pampered car in the whole collection. Gets driven around picking up parts for the restoration shop, running various errands, so it sees a fair amount of use. And it's pretty dusty and dirty. It's got a coating of pollen on it. So I'm gonna give it kind of its weekly bath, as it were. It has been recently detailed, so it has sealant protection on it, and I wanna keep that intact. So that's why I'm going with our Extreme Sud Balance Wash. It's gonna preserve that protection, not gonna strip it away. It's pH balanced. It's gonna basically give me the ability to clean this car, but keep that fresh detail intact. I've also got two buckets here. You'll notice I've got two different colored lids, and we offer these two different colored lids for one very specific reason. When you're doing a 2-bucket wash, it's easy to get your rinse bucket and your soap bucket confused. You run around the car and you come back and which one was which. Well, by having two different colors, which we make them available in black and blue, you can decide which one is your rinse and your soap bucket. If you want them both the same color, hey, that's fine too. We offer them in two different colors for that reason. So also in my bucket here, I've got a microfiber wash sponge in one of our synthetic wool acrylic wash pads. I'm gonna use this for the upper part of the car. I'm gonna use this for the lower areas. I like to have two different wash media. That way, I'm not gonna drag contamination excessively from one spot to another. Also notice I've pre-prepped my MTM foam cannon here. This is gonna go on our pressure washer. Now for the guys that don't use a pressure washer, this soap still works excellent with just a bucket and water. The foam cannon gives us a whole other dimension, a lot of foam that sticks to the car really well. I added about 1.5 ounces, 2 ounces of product to this mixture here. It makes a really, really high concentrated foaming wash. I'm gonna also put some in my bucket so I've got that extra protection. The key to preventing swirls when washing is lubricity and lots of foam. You wanna suspend those contaminants, pull them away from the surface and make them slick. So adding a little bit of soap to our soap bucket, as well as having the foam from the foam cannon, will give us that ability. Let's get started. So before we introduce any water to the paint, the key is to get your supplies set up. You don't want to introduce water because water means water spots. So you want to save that until you're ready to actually start washing. I've already set up my foam cannon. I've got 2 ounces of our balanced soap in there, the rest filled with water, so that's ready to go. Now I'm going to prep my buckets. I'm going to use my blue bucket here as my rinse water bucket. All I'm going to add to this is clean water. It's got a grit guard insert at the bottom. And I want it mostly full of water. Now this is the bucket I'm going to come back to each time I finish a panel to rinse my wash pad off, to dislodge any dirt, debris, or things that I've picked up. The grit guard will then hold those things down below the water line there and keep them from coming back onto the wash pad and then introducing scratches onto the car. All right, that's nice and full of water. So now in this bucket, I've got my 2 wash pads and another grit guard insert. Make sure that's nice and firm at the bottom. I'm gonna actually put my wash pads into the bucket. So in with my wash pads, I'm gonna add 2 full ounces of our Extreme Suds Balance Wash. Now, again, as I mentioned, this is a pH balanced soap, so it's not gonna strip the wax protection. I'm using a little measuring cup here. 1 full cup is 1 ounce, so one and 2. This is an extremely high concentration. It's a black car. I've got bright sun out here. I want to make sure that I give this every chance to suspend those minerals. If I was working on a cloudy day, or say the car wasn't as dirty or dusty as this one is, you can get away with as little as 1 ounce. Play with the soap when you first get it and understand how much foam and how much lather you generate with that amount of soap. If you don't feel like you're getting enough, add a little bit more. But 1 ounce is usually enough for most average cleaning, 2 ounces for things you're really, really trying to be careful with. With this, again, I'm gonna fill with water. Now I'm reaching into the bucket and actually releasing that soap out of the wash pads. I wanna make sure it gets in there. So I've turned the water off for a second to show you one thing. People make a big mistake when filling their buckets with their car wash by spraying from up high. You get big, huge bubbles with that, which is impressive, but you fill your bucket up mostly with this kind of thick, weak foam that dissipates fast. You wanna get the nozzle in close and you wanna generate a lather. You want bunches of tiny bubbles. They sustain longer, they don't pop as easily, and that gives you a foamy car wash mixture that lasts longer, lasts through your entire wash. You make those big, huge bubbles, by the time you get 2 or 3 panels into the car, you're gonna be left with kind of a flat water mixture with a little bit of soap in it. I'm gonna finish filling this up. Still agitating the water and the soap, so I get a nice thick lather. That's perfect. Now that I've got my buckets prepped, soap's in there, wash mitts are soaking, got my clean rinse water, now it's time to introduce water to the car. Now if you have a hose, that still works just fine. This product's designed to work with just a bucket wash, a foam gun attached to the end of a regular garden hose, or the pressure washer like what we're working with today. You're going to get the same amount of foam in the bucket. What a pressure washer does for you, it gives you a little bit more pressure for removing that contamination when you're in the rinse stage. I'm using a 40-degree tip on my pressure washer today, but also the introduction of all that foam to the car means you don't have to worry so much about getting the soap to the car. It's already there. This is just kind of your backup. So now we're going to actually start rinsing the car down. You want to spend plenty of time on your rinse process. Let the water do some work for you, especially when you're using a pressure washer. You can use that to knock a lot of debris loose. If it's off the car, it's one less thing that could potentially introduce scratches, swirls, or damage. Now, I like to concentrate, spend some time along the lower rocker panels. If you're working on a car with older paint, you have chips, scratches, anything deep like that, a pressure washer is still safe. Just don't get right up on top of it and focus on that spot. Use sweeping movements, keep the pressure washer moving, and something like a 40-degree tip like I'm using today, it's really not going to be a cause for concern. So clock's ticking. We've got just water on a black car on a sunny day. So I'm gonna go ahead and hook up my MTM foam cannon. Again, this was 2, maybe a little bit less than 2 even, of our balanced wash, the rest water. I give it a good shake to make sure it's mixed together. You want consistent color. You don't wanna see a bunch of soap sitting at the bottom of the filler there. Quick connect, engage, ready to foam. Cannon! Who says it doesn't snow in Huntington Beach, California, am I right? All right, man, I'm gonna grab the synthetic wool pad. I'll do the top halves. You wanna grab that microfiber? You get the lowers. So what we're gonna do as we're washing, we're gonna complete a panel, or for something the size of this hood, I'm gonna do about half of it. I'm gonna flip to the other side of the wash pad that I know is still clean, and I'm gonna do this half. Before I proceed to any other panels with this wash pad, I'm gonna come back over to my rinse bucket here, and I'm gonna make sure I get all of that contamination out of it. Rubbing it against the grit guard at the bottom. I like to pull it out and I do a quick, okay? Nothing big, no leaves, no twigs, no dried bug guts. Grab some fresh, soapy wash pad and pick up where I left off, one panel at a time. Really like that microfiber pad for the lower sections, don't you?
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, either way, if you prefer the synthetic wool or the microfiber, we've got you covered.
Now we're making sure we're not rinsing the car. It's much safer to have our balanced soap dry on the finish than it would to be just the minerals. The soap can be removed. The minerals by themselves, that's what leaves you those little ring type water spots, especially on a black car on a sunny day. It's horrible. So while it may not completely 100% always prevent water spots, it's at least going to reduce the possibility. And if you have really minor ones, it'll probably knock them out entirely. So thanks to Matt, we were able to knock this thing out real quick. I still got soap on it. It's still not ideal to let that dry, but it's a heck of a lot safer than just water. I'm ready for my rinse process. Again, if you're using a hose, process looks the same. You're just gonna eliminate that crazy foaming action, but you're gonna rinse the soap off once the entire car has been cleaned. Let's get this pressure washer going, knock the rest of the soap off, and then we can move on to drying. So a quick little tip for you guys who are using a hose, and even the guys who are using a pressure washer after you've taken the water hose off. It's called sheet rinsing. What this does is it uses water to push some of the standing water beads off, reduces the amount of water you got to deal with. Take the nozzle off the end of your hose, reduce the stream to about maybe a quarter flow, really, really light stream, and kind of use the angles of the car. If the hood runs downhill, work with that, push that water downhill. The less water that's sitting on the car is the less water that you have to dry. All right, so we've got most of the standing water off of the car. Matt and I have each selected our preferred drying towels. I use our super oversized plush drying towel.
And I've got the large waffle weave towel.
They're both great, kind of matter of personal preference. Me and Matt over dinner occasionally will argue in depth about the virtues of either, but there is no right or wrong, it's which one you like better. I've also got our polymer detail spray, so wax-free detail spray. And what we're gonna use this for right now is to further prevent those water spots and also add a small layer of protection and a little added gloss. You do it while the car's still wet. It suspends what little water is left, speeds up the drying process, and it kind of cuts a separate step. You don't dry and then have to add something else. Do it all in one step.
Now you can also use this like for prepping for a car show or just shining up your ride for the weekend.
Absolutely. It's not just used when the car's wet. It's used in so many different scenarios. What makes our polymer detail spray unique is in the area of surface care, it has one added feature that not many other products can boast. We use a specifically charged particle in the formulation that helps fight off static electricity. By doing that, it reduces the amount of dust that can settle on the paint. It can't prevent it. Dust is still going to fall from the sky, but it's not going to attract any additional dust onto the surface that wouldn't have been there otherwise. So just going to lightly mist over the areas that I'm drying. I'm going to hand this bottle off to Matt so he can get started. With this oversized plush towel, it's kind of great. So let me unfold it for you. I'm going to show you the full size of this thing. It's almost a beach blanket of microfiber. It's killer. Super plush. I fold it a few times. Just use it until that side feels saturated, and then I move to a fresh side. Gives you plenty of surfaces. Now, one little tip, if you are fighting really, really intense sunlight on your car, the polymer detail spray will help that as well, but a lot of guys like to dry all of their glass before they head to the paint. It's much easier to fix water spots on paint for some reason than it is on glass. So if you are fighting really intense sun, let's say you're a guy in Arizona and you're crazy enough to try and wash your car middle of the day in August, you're gonna wanna wash or dry the glass off first to prevent that spotting and move to the paint. You wanna be really quick regardless in that situation, but it's kind of another measure of protection. Prevent the things that you can and move on to the things that don't need as much help.
Another point to make though on the detailing spray is if you're just using it to clean and prep your vehicle in between washing and waxing, you can use it in the hot sun.
Yeah, it will work just as well in full sunlight without streaks, without any issues. It doesn't really fight, it doesn't really seem to care what the weather or the surface conditions are. It's really kind of a unique product, something that if you get your hands on it, you're gonna love it. I love this plush drying towel. It is super huge, super soft. It's just so absorbent. There's so many surfaces on it. It's my favorite drying tool. I'm sure Matt's gonna try and sell you on the waffle weave because that's his favorite, but for me, this is the ultimate drying tool.
So I've got the super absorbent microfiber waffle weave towel. Now, Dylan's was absorbent as well, but mine's super lightweight. It's gonna do this whole car on its own easily. Now, he had to help me a little bit, but we can look at the side half and half and see who did a little bit better. And I'm guaranteeing a win on this one.
All right, dude, truce. Try this. I know you're gonna like it.
I'm open to change. I'll give it a try.
All right. There you have it. Washing made simple with our balanced wash. It's maintained the wax protection that was on the El Camino here, left it with a nice glossy finish. It's a wax-free soap for those of you guys out there that have maybe a matte vinyl wrap or a matte paint job on your car. Perfectly safe for those because it's wax-free. It's purely cleansing and lubricating the surface for the removal of dust. Car looks great. We were able to put down a coat of our polymer detail spray while we were drying. A little bit added protection, a little bit of added gloss. Got to try out our drying towels. And the car looks great. It's ready for another couple thousand miles of running around town with parts in the back, and it'll look great doing it.